to the Twitch and Stitch podcast. I'm your host, Marsha, also known as Fairy Little on Ravelry and Fairy_Little on Instagram. This is a podcast about knitting and a little bit of homesteading at the end, and I actually have a guest co-presenter or guest presenter for the section, the homesteading section. So I'm really excited to get that going too. I want to thank everybody for the amazing support that I've received over the last couple weeks. My dad has moved into assisted living, and that was a really difficult time. I've spent some extra time with Scylla, and we got my dad all unpacked, and he has a lot more storage there, so things are put away, and he doesn't want to be happy there, but he's a lot happier there than he was here living without the additional assistance that he actually requires. So that's going really well. My daughter Helen came up from, I picked her up and brought her back from Vancouver, and now she's making her plans to make her way back down to Vancouver. So that's happening right now, and we just had a discussion regarding what you actually do need to move and what kind of things you should probably have lined up before you leave. So that was a good conversation. So it's been a hectic couple of weeks. I've gotten some more sewing stuff done. I've cut liners now, but it has been slow going because I've had so much personal stuff going on. So I have nothing to show you yet, but don't worry. Before I post anything on Etsy, you will be the first to see what's happening. I would like to welcome anybody who is new. If this is your first podcast to watch, that's so exciting. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. If you have watched before and haven't hit the subscribe button, why not? I wanted to mention I used to watch podcasts and I didn't subscribe because I wasn't signed up to subscribe, and I just thought it was odd that to have a list or whatever. And finally I signed up, and because I knew which ones I really liked, but there was one that I watched and I cannot remember the name of it, but it was this lady in Scotland, and I can't remember the name of it, and I can't find it, and I don't know who she is or anything, and I really enjoyed her podcast, but I cannot remember for the life of me. So if any of you know of any Scottish podcasts, please let me know, because I would really like to find this one again and actually subscribe to it if she's still recording. So that is the plus side of subscribing, is that if you are like, yeah, I'll remember it, come back and you can't remember if that's it's helpful. I've had quite a few new subscribers, so thank you. And there's been lots of podcasters mentioning the podcast, so I want to say thank you to them as well. So let's get into the knitting now, shall we? It has been a knit crazy week. Oh, I just want to mention I am recording from Edith. She is my vacation trailer. We're actually going to be going camping next weekend. So I was just in here getting her all ready, and I made all of these lovely curtains, and I refinished all of the fabric cushions because they were all brown. It's a 1978 trailer, so I've redone all of the cushions, so they're fantastic. I redid them a couple years ago, and I painted the inside. It was all brown. It's like a fake wood veneer, and so I painted it all white and turquoise a few years ago. So it's kind of 1950s inspired, but it's definitely yeah, I love it. It's my happy place. So you get to join me in my happy place today. So I've got some works in progress. Actually, I've been knitting religiously on a few different things. Most of the things that I've been knitting on monogamously, I have gotten done. So I'll show you those things in finished objects. But the thing that has gotten the most attention here is this. And it is, why can I never remember what it's called? It's called the Adrift by Carol Feller, and I'm actually mid-row right now, so I could pick this up and knit it while I'm talking to you, because I'm a hand talker. I don't know if you guys realize that I'm a hand talker, but also I took sign language when I was expecting my oldest, so I used to sign all the time while I was talking. So it's just gotten super lazy, and it doesn't resemble sign language at all anymore. but it used to. So I'm a hand talker now. So yeah, so since the last episode, I have knit. I have a marker here. There it is. Okay, so that's where I was for the last episode, and I have knit. I've split for the sleeves, and I've knit all of that length. So by the next podcast, I'm crossing my fingers to have this done. Before I split for the sleeves, it was about 400 stitches, just over 400 stitches a row. I think it was 440, which was getting to be a bit of a slog. I'm enjoying the yarn that I'm using. It is Diamond Luxury Pima Lino Calori, and it is a lace weight. So, and it's 60% Pima cotton, 40% linen, and yeah, it's a lace weight yarn. So this is really, it's really light. You can see through it. I don't know if you can see that. That was a weird sound, sorry. So this is coming along, and it is, I'm doing a knit for a display piece at our local yarn store. So neither the yarn nor the pattern is something I would necessarily have chosen for myself. The color of the yarn is something I would have chosen. And this yarn actually will soften up, and I like knitting with things that other people suggest just because it gets me out of my comfort zone, and it's, you know, it wouldn't be necessarily something that I would grab. But now that I've knit with it, I would probably knit with it again. And this pattern is it's an open top. I printed it off in black and white, so it's really difficult to see. And you can do like just the sleeves as they are. So once I'm done this, I'll just cast those stitches on, and I don't know how many rows I knit or whatever, but it's very short, and then you just cast them off. But you can do like a longer sleeve if you were so inclined. I'm not so inclined. So I'm just going to do it as a just short sleeve, and it doesn't have any buttons or anything. It's just very open and flowy. It's very lightweight, so for here it gets very warm. And so I think that that's going to be very nice for the summertime. Other than that, I have nothing that I've been really knitting on. Well, everything I've knit on, I've finished or frogged. So I want to go right into something that I frogged, because this was a sad, sad day for me. I started knitting some socks for Nick, my husband, out of this Patton's Croy sock yarn. He has a pair of socks out of this exact yarn already, so he's not hurting for this color. But, and I really like how it knits up. So in December, before I did the sockathon with Mina, I cast these on because my hands were itching for some socks. So I cast them on, and I was like, I'll put them down on January 1, and I'll pick them up after we're done the sockathon. So I picked them up, and I had about that much knit, and then I knit a little bit more, threw in the heel, and was almost to the toe, and I was like, hey, I should probably try this on his foot. I put it on his foot, and I could pinch it on both sides. There's so much extra fabric around the ankle, and what I had knit before the sockathon fit him perfectly. It was the perfect stitch count. I think it was 68 stitches, and it was on 2.5 millimeter needles, and the carbons. This, my gauge changed so much that I need to knit this on probably 2.25 millimeters, and change the stitch count to 64 stitches, I want to say, for his feet. And he's like, oh, it's fine. And I just started ripping because I was so disappointed. But it wasn't, we don't have anybody else with, that they could have been for anyway. So, it doesn't, obviously it doesn't take me a huge amount of time to knit a pair of socks, so I'm not, it's fine. It's just a little bit frustrating that my gauge has changed that much that I can't use my 2.25s to knit Patton's Croy anymore. So that was frogged, and actually, to be honest, it feels better that it's frogged and not sitting there waiting for the next step, because it was waiting for so long with that section just done. And I also realized a really now that I've been knitting 2 at a time, I really like that much better. Like, I finished another pair of socks that I knit 1 at a time, and 2 at a time, you know exactly where you are. You know, when you start the heel, you do the heel in the exact same spot. There's no measuring, there's no counting rows, no wasting time like that. So I can see myself doing more just 2 at a time instead of double pointed needles. Also, the DP ends were finicky for the heel. So, and I'd forgotten that that was a thing. So yeah, so those are off the needles. Frogged. So a few weeks ago I was mentioned on Vanessa Kind's podcast. It's called My Creative Garage, and it's so cute. But she wanted to play podcaster tag, and one of the questions that she wants answered is 5 people you would have dinner with. Now, the concept behind this idea is to get to know people a little bit better as to who their choices are and why. So here are my 5 choices. So my 5 choices are actually only 3 because that's all I can think of off the top of my head. The first one would be Robin Williams. He was a comedic genius, and he, and I think with genius, there is a propensity to, especially with comedians, depression. But I think that it would be an amazing experience to sit down for dinner with him. And Ellen Montgomery, she was the author of the Anne of Green Gables books and Emily of New Moon. She was, in my mind, a literary genius. She, you know, one of the things that they say for writers to do is take something that they know and write about it. And she speaks about Canada and Prince Edward Island, and she's a word artist when she's describing those beautiful places. But her story of Anne of Green Gables is nowhere near what her reality was. Her reality was more along the lines of Emily of New Moon. And she also, I've been reading the journals of Ellen Montgomery, and they just go into such a deep place. She dealt with depression as well, and her journals were a place where she would go and vent all of those things. And from a psychological point of view, that is actually good for you. It's healthy for you to write all your negative things down and keep all of your positive things in your mind. But to be reading through that can get grueling, and I've had to put her books down every once in a while, just her journals down, because it just gets too heavy, and I can't be there all the time. But just to be able to sit down with her and have a meal with her and talk to her about her opinions. She's just a very dynamic woman, and I just feel like that would be an amazing conversation that I'd be able to have with her at a dinner table. Yeah, I just think that would be amazing. And the third person is my mom. I would love to be able to sit down with my mom again and just sit, chat, eat, and talk about all the things that have changed over the last, 6 years or 5 years and even 6 years. And, just chew the fat with her again. I think that would be so much fun. Yeah, so there's my 3 people out of 5. I think that having all 3 of those people together would make a very interesting conversation, especially if my mom started talking to Ellen Montgomery about her other interests. There'd be a fire going under her. It's funny. So I have a finished object, but, well, I have a couple of them, but this one fits neatly into my sensitive to sensitivity section. It is the Sakon Sock by Kramer Yarns. It's a fingering weight yarn, and it is completely wool-free. It's 44% cotton, 43% acrylic, and 13% nylon. And these are them. Now, the yarn feels very hard wearing. I think it feels kind of like Regia, but just finer. And I did a 2x2 rib, and I did I actually did a German short row heel. I learned German short rows in a previous sweater I did, and so I put German short row heel into these socks, which you can see along that line. It kind of gives the same kind of look almost as the Fish Lips Kiss heel, but it's just, yeah, it was just, I wanted to try it. It's a little bit quicker than that heel, so I kind of wish I knew knew how to do it or thought of doing it before the Sockathon, because that would have been a good heel to do. And then my toe is just my regular toe, and my regular toe is what I do is how do I do my toe? So my regular toe is slip one, knit one, pass slip stitch over, knit to the last 2 stitches, and knit 2 together, and then slip one, knit one, pass slip stitch over, knit to the end, the last 2 stitches, knit 2 together, and then I knit a row, and then I continue that on until I get down to 12 stitches, and then I just close up the toe. So yes, so those are done. This yarn was, I really liked it. The color is really pretty. It's a purple and it's got a bit of a pinkish red, well, pink in there. But I don't know if you can see it. I was knitting this outside the other day, and the pink has a shine. So I'm not sure if that's where more of the nylon content is, but it has a bit of a shine, and it looks really pretty. I'm very happy with them. This yarn actually, Kramer Yarns has been around for I think 107 years. They're in Pennsylvania. They're a company that it's not their first rodeo. They do know what they're doing. And this yarn, I feel like this yarn would be really good in like a baby sweater, like, or a cardigan or something, because it's fully washable. And it's hard wearing. So like, I think that like these stitches, they look be so cute in a little baby cardigan, I feel like, you know, yeah, I think, or a hat, doing some infant hats out of this would be good. As socks, they're comfortable. They are yeah, they stretch, they're fine. There's no stretching issues. I know that some yarns can have a bit of a stretch issue, but these are fine. They're good. And yeah, so if you have a sensitivity to wool, or if you want to try something like this, should be a more comfortable for spring and fall wearing, because they're not going to be as warm. So if you are interested in trying some of that yarn, I definitely recommend that you go and give it a go. Like, and it's at www.krameryarns.com. Yeah, so it's 100 grams and 430 yards. Definitely go and give it a try, especially if you have a sensitivity to wool. I know it's difficult to find sock yarns that don't have wool in them. So, and that's something that I'm looking at too, is knitting some more socks that don't have a wool content, because, you know, I have allergies to certain things too. And actually our yarn store in town, the lady who owns the yarn store is allergic to wool. So she stocks a lot of things that are wool free, but she can wear merino wool, but she can't wear any of the other wools, or if it's not like a pure merino, she can't wear it. But yeah, it's just definitely a good conversation to have. And this, yeah, so this yarn was really nice, and yeah, I can see it being very hard wearing. I haven't spent time wearing these yet, so I'll let you know how they wear as I wear them. I was given a couple shawl patterns, and they definitely came at a really good time, because I was just having a little bit of a rough time over the last couple weeks. And I was given the pollinator pattern by Meraki Studio, who is Jo, and she also gave us 2 copies to give away for the podcast, so thank you so much, Jo. And I was also given the miso shawl by Noni26. who is Fee, and thank you so much. Those patterns are definitely things I will be knitting. The pollinator is a hat, and the miso shawl is a shawl. And so I'm going to definitely be knitting both of those things, so you'll get to see them knit up. And it was so thoughtful of both of you to gift those to me. It was very rough, you know, last couple weeks, so it was really good. I also wanted to say hello to Grace of Babel's Traveling Yarn, and if you haven't checked out her podcast, it is a travel / knitting podcast, so more the focus is on the travel than the knitting, but she is so funny. She just like makes me laugh. She's just totally unplugged. So if you enjoy that kind of sense of humor, then she's definitely, she's so fun to watch. She just is very animated, and she's traveling all around the world. She is in Australia right now, and I just love to hear her stories. One of the things in her last podcast she mentioned was about queuing. So lining up, we don't call it queuing here, but we call it lining up to get into places or to do things. You line up. And one of the things that she mentioned was having troubles getting people to line up in a certain country. They just kind of budged in line and went wherever they wanted. And I have to say that when I was in Japan, they had it down to a science, because their culture is so based on not being offensive and just putting other people first, and it's very well trained, I suppose. We were on like the train platforms have hundreds and thousands of people on them, and it's silent, totally quiet. And wherever the openings are for the train doors, there's 2 straight lines. And nobody's talking. It's just, nobody's impolite. Everybody goes to the end of the line. They all mind their own business. And I've never felt so safe in my life. So Grace, if you have time to go to Japan, I would highly, highly recommend it, because your experience there will definitely be a little bit different from some of the places that you've been traveling. And there's actually been quite a few people who are in Japan who've reached out to me to say hello. So I would like to say hello to everybody in Japan who's been watching. That's so exciting. I appreciate all of you. Just so you know, I'm not slighting anybody. A few people who are actually in Japan have reached out to me specifically in the last little bit, which is really cool. And it's really cool that I've been there so recently. So when they speak about where they live and different areas they are, I've been there, and I just really like that. So that's really cool. So over the last couple weeks, I've had quite a few interactions with people on Instagram, and going through frogging a few things and getting things completed, and a couple things that have come up since I've been knitting some things. And I just want to take a minute and ask Jen Marco, what is on your needles? So just go into the Ravelry thread and show us what you're working on. So there's a couple knit-alongs going on, and one is the Narita Express, and it will be done at the end of April, and we'll have some prizes going on for that. There's a pattern prize or 2, and we have Mina from the Knitting Expat Le Moelleux shawl and Knitting I Love. Barbara has donated the needle holders and bag, and we also have 2 copies of the pollinator to give away. So I don't know if I'm going to give both of them away for the Narita Express knit along, but we have quite a few finished objects in there, and they are looking awesome. I've been in there looking, and yeah, I've been just loving it all. We also have a double dip thread open. So this is a knit along that's a year-long knit along, and we'll be doing draws. And when I say we, I don't mean a royal we, it's Scylla and I. Even though she's not here, she's here in heart. So we're doing a double dip knit along that is going over the whole year, and we'll be doing a draw for that pretty soon. There's over 200 entries for the double dip knit along, and what it is if you are joining any other knit along, you can enter our knit along as well. You just have to follow the rules of the other knit along. post a photo of your finished object and link in where that other knit along is in what other group, so that we can see the rules and such, and then you'll be entered to win for an extra prize. And as long as the other knit along allows you to double dip, then it's open to double dip in ours. So if you aren't allowed to double dip, then save our double dip thread for a knit along that you can double dip in. I'll also be doing the Canadian knit along in July 1st to September 30th, taking part in that. And I'm going to be knitting a giant maple leaf shawl in some Sweet Georgia yarn. So that is coming up, and I'm prepared for that, and I'm so excited. Now for some finished objects. I feel like I'm whizzing through this. Okay, so finished object. I finished a hat, and it's the sock head hat. I really enjoyed the decreases on that hat because they are just so even. I'm a fan of even decreases. I don't have it here because I've already gifted it, but I'll put in a picture of what it looks like. And I've also, again, finished the Secon socks, which I already discussed, and they are looking good. And this is my Narita Express. Now this is knit in Knit Picks Imagination in the Ruby Slipper colorway. See, I finally have the tag. And it turned out lovely. I really love it. So here's a little piece of information. So last year I did a mini skein swap with Melinda of the Yarn Dirt Woman podcast, and she's knitting a minis blanket that is in gray, black, red, and purple, I think. And I didn't have very many options in those colors, so I went ahead and stole yarn from a couple different skeins, and this was one of the yarns that I stole like a mini skein from. So I was playing Yarn Chicken at the very end, and I was casting off, and I was about here. And you can tell now that I mentioned it that is not the same yarn. So I found some red yarn that it doesn't quite match. I might be able to find some more of this somewhere, but what I did is, like, there was an end in the middle because it's 250-gram balls, so I took the end off of one of those ends and I knit with that, and yeah, and it was still too short, so I finished it off. And when I'm wearing it, you can't tell, so I'm not too fussy about that. And I love it. It's red. This is the Narita Express. I wanted to make sure that I had one done for the knit along because I fall behind in those things sometimes. And yeah, it's very squishy. I blocked it last night, but I didn't block it really hard, so it still has squishiness, but it still has the size. So it is a very simple knit. It's meant so that if you're traveling, there's not a lot to remember. There's not a lot of fuss with it. And it's currently free. It's called the Narita Express. And I was knitting it while traveling to and in Japan, in a different, well, obviously in a different yarn. But that's where I designed it. That's where the name comes from, because when you leave the airport, you get onto the Narita Express. So it was the first and the last train that I took in Japan. You get on the Narita Express to get out of the airport and to get into the airport. So, yeah, so it was a romantic idea. Yeah, and so I love it in red. I wanted a red shawl, and this one is just fitting the bill so nicely. When I soaked it, it bled like crazy. All of this Imagination yarn, all of them I have found have bled like crazy. So I wouldn't wash this with anything else. Reds tend to anyway, dark blues tend to bleed too. But I wouldn't wash this with anything else. So, just because I wouldn't want it to bleed on anything. Yeah, so there's a little bit of interest there. I'm also, I'm really excited because I have so many, this last couple weeks has been, because I've been so monogamous, it just builds my hunger to cast more things on and to knit more things and to design more things. So I have a couple designs in my head that I'm mulling over and working on. There's one design that I have wanted to make for over a year now. And it is, I'm not going to give anything away about it, but I can't make anything little. Like, this is the smallest shawl I've made, and it takes one skein of sock weight yarn, 100 grams of sock weight yarn. So, but whenever I'm thinking of making a pattern, it's always like at least 200 grams. Like, one of the one that I'm thinking of doing is going to be at least like 900 meters of yarn. That's it's intense. And it's just because I feel like I can't get the full picture unless I kind of feel like it's like, I feel like the shawl is my canvas. So like, you know, I just want the whole picture to be on my canvas, and I just need large canvases to show you the whole picture, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Because the one I want to do, it's just, yeah, it's fairly large, and I just don't know how to make it smaller. And there's also one that I want to design, and I've wanted to do this for a long time, and I just have this idea of something that I want to knit, and I'm working on the charts and trying to get it out and like get it from here to here to here. I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Still have a coupon code with Mint Rain yarn, and it's mintrain.etsy.com, and the coupon code is Twitch and Stitch 10, and it is for 10% off of your purchase of Mint Rain yarn, and that yarn is beautiful. I actually caked it up so that I could just touch it. Spend more time with it because I'm so jonesing for something other than what I'm working on. So yeah, so I just can't wait to get those socks cast on, but I have to finish this first because it needs to go on display. I am about to show you an acquisition. I know. And this is a purchase acquisition. This is not a gift acquisition, and it's from Sweet Georgia Yarns. They had a sale where it was a secret bag sale where they didn't tell you what you were getting or what colors or what family. And so these came the other day, and they are gorgeous. So, and the smell of them, this is what Knit City smells like to me. It's like yarn and vinegar or something. But this is totally what Knit City smelled like to me. So this one I feel like is either going to be shawl or socks. And these two, I saw them, and the first thing I thought was the Rockefeller by Stephen West. And I think those would be gorgeous together in that. And then I showed Nick and I said, hey, would you wear this? And he said, hey, no, I would not. And so I'm like, should I knit it for myself or knit it and then give it as a gift for somebody? I don't know, but I think that that would make a great Rockefeller. These are going to be going into stash, and if I don't decide, then I might do these as part of one of the prize giveaways as well. But they're super pretty. So another thing I've started is a Patreon page, and it's called Very Little. And there's different levels you can subscribe for. And what I'm hoping to achieve from this is I to create knit world essentially. And a couple of the things that I'm going to be doing on my Patreon page is I'm going to be doing a knit along. It's a video knit along of knitting your first sweater. So I will be recording and doing just essentially what you need to do to prepare for your first sweater, and then knitting your first sweater. And I'm going to probably do the introduction as open to everybody so you can see kind of the format, and as well as I'll be doing a newsletter once a month for everybody who subscribes. And there's a list of what each level includes, but at any level you'll get the newsletter, and what that'll include is what I'm working on, things that are coming, some extra information on homesteading, and actually like written out recipes for homesteading. There will also be tutorials and knit-alongs there, and I don't there are a lot of tutorials, and there are a lot of tutorials that are for free, but I feel like it would be more of a how you would learn if you were sitting down with me. So it's not just, you know, there'll be knit-alongs and things just to encourage that. We already have one patron, and I want to say thank you so much for that. And at the different levels you are entered to win different things. So at the $10 plus level, you are entered to win once a month a skein of Canadian yarn. And at the 20 plus level, you're entered for, you get everything at each other level. Plus at the 20 plus level, you will also be able to, you'll be getting all of the patterns that I design under my name. Those will come to you for free. So that's an added value there, and you won't have to pay for those patterns. I'm still working out Patreon, and it's Patreon, if you're wondering. I'm still working out the details and how to post and that sort of thing. And over the next couple weeks, that stuff will be getting done. And I just, yeah, so if you want to come over and support the podcast over there, if you felt like maybe you wanted to donate something but, you know, haven't been able to or whatever, that could be a way of supporting the podcast as well. So for homesteading, I have a special guest. My husband Nick is going to show you what it's like to collect a hive.
We have a swarm we're catching here. We're just spritzing a bit of water on it just to kind of dampen the wings so they can't fly. We don't want to cool them down too much, but it's fairly warm here. We have a box with a few in already, so we're going to give it a little double tap to get them all onto the bottom of the box. And what we're going to do here now is we're going to put it over here. Oh, we got half a box here. I'm just going to use spritz to spritz down things. With this, I can just put this in here, or I can just give it that. I'm going to close that up. We got a box of bees.
I was there with him while he collected the hive, the swarm, and it took quite a while to get it. He actually dropped the swarm first, and then it came and re-swarmed up onto the piece that you saw there. And I had to walk away and go into the truck and shut the doors and everything and shut the windows so that they couldn't come in, because they were everywhere and it was so loud. And then they came all back together and he put them into the boxes you saw, which is super cool. And I've been doing some things. I did some videoing last week for something that is coming up with another podcast, so that's really cool. And lately I've been watching a lot of documentaries. I have to admit, I watch a lot of documentaries. I love history, and I love to knit while I'm learning about history, so reading and it's either audiobooks or like YouTube documentaries, or I think I've watched all of the documentaries on Netflix that appeal to me. I don't like to watch ones about like the world wars or anything like that. I like to watch the ones pre that. So I just watched a trilogy documentary on Captain James Cook, which was very cool. And recently I've watched ones on Egypt and Pompeii and quite a few on Egypt, actually, to be honest. That's just a little bit about me. Yeah, so I think that's it. You guys have been great. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.